Hello and welcome back to Women's Football Talk, the YouTube channel that brings you all the latest news and stories from around the world of women's football. This past week has saw match day 2 in the UEFA Women's Champions League take place, and we had some good results to look at and some fantastic games on a whole. So let's start off with Chelsea, and it was the Sam Kerr show as they managed to beat Paris FC by 4-1. The Australian international scored a hat-trick, bagging her first just after half an hour, and then 2 goals early on in the second half as Chelsea managed to beat the French side by 4-1. A fantastic performance from Sam Kerr, who has been reportedly not fully fit post World Cup, and I mean, if she can do that at like 70-80% fitness, then it's going to be a tough season for any team, not just European teams but teams in the WSL trying to stop Sam Kerr from scoring, and this whole Chelsea team on a whole from scoring. I mean, the fact that this was probably Sam Kerr's best game of the season in terms of her goal output is showing you something that we can be at the November, back end of November, and this be Sam Kerr's biggest talking point to the date of the season because of how well other players like Aggie Beever-Jones, Shirkan Nushkin, Lauren James, like, it just shows how well rounded this Chelsea team is. So it's not something that Sam Kerr herself needs to be worried about, and it's actually allowed her to slowly develop into this season. And the fact that now she got this hat-trick heading into this weekend, she could become even more dangerous. Yeah, on a whole, I think Chelsea just absolutely showed why they are a different class compared to Paris FC. Obviously, pre the Champions League group stages, we saw what Paris FC were able to do, knock out Wolfsburg, knock out Arsenal in the qualification process, and many teams had hyped them up as to be a potential team that could shock some more. However, obviously they now sit bottom of the group after their 2 games without a single point, conceding 6 goals and scoring just the 2. So it's going to be something that Paris FC obviously will want to rectify, but for a Chelsea standpoint, managing to score the 4 goals, give a good bit of change to the team at times as well. Yeah, it's just working really well for Emma Hayes' side. Looking to this weekend for them, they are obviously playing Leicester City in the final WSL game before the international break, so it's going to be hard for Willie Kirk's side. We know what they've been able to do against the big sides and how they set up, but it's going to be something that I think will be really hard for them to try and press, because we don't know what Chelsea team is going to be starring and who the Chelsea player that will be starring. I mean, Niamh Charles as well, just to think off the back of the players that I mentioned earlier, how her season has started so far. Like, the depth that Emma Hayes has and the availability of players is really scary. I mean, we've just got back from last weekend where it was the Lauren James show against Chelsea, where against Liverpool, where she scored a hat-trick. This midweek it's Sam Kerr that's scoring a hat-trick. Shirkan Nushkin scored a hat-trick earlier on in the season. Like, the fact that Chelsea have this abundance of players that can control games themselves is going to be a big worry for Willie Kirk's side. I mean, fortunately for them, they've got Janina Leitzig in goal, who has been outstanding since she came into the club in January, and then they've obviously been able to make it permanently, so it's been a really positive move for them. But it's just about how they can try and contain that. I mean, if we think back to how they did it against Arsenal in the first half a couple of weeks back, they had such a high press, trying to leave the gap between the defence and the goalkeeper quite high up to try and catch players offside. It seemed to work for a bit, but then Arsenal found out and they got going in the second half and ended up winning 6-2. So for Leicester, it's something that they can't be doing too much of, that high line, but I think if they can try and get something, it's going to be a very positive result for them. Before we get on with the rest of the WSL games this weekend, we'll have a quick look at the rest of the Champions League fixtures. So the other game in Chelsea's group finished BK Häcken 2, Real Madrid 1. So the Swedish side pulling out a big shock there, beating Real Madrid by 2-1, and they currently sit top of group, having won both of their games so far. In Group C, we saw Bayern Munich beat PSG by 1-0. Magdalena Eriksson scoring the only goal in that game, and AS Roma managed to beat Ajax by 3-0. Valentina Giacinti with 2 early goals before Manuela Giuliano scored the other one in that game to have Roma at the top, then Bayern Munich, Ajax in third, and PSG sitting bottom. And then Wednesday's fixtures, Barcelona came from behind to beat Eintracht Frankfurt by 3-1. Mariana Caldente scoring in, I believe that was her 100th Champions League game, and one of the only player to have consecutively scored in the Champions League since 2016-17 onwards. So yeah, massive well done to Caldente in there. The other game in that group saw Benfica beat Rosengard by 1-0. Kike Nazareth with it. And then Group B saw Lyon beat St. Pölten by 2-0 and SK Braun versus Slavia Praha. Braun winning that game by 1-0. So some fantastic games, like I said, in the Champions League this past week, and we've got to wait a couple of weeks before match day 3 in the Champions League takes place. So back to the WSL now, and we have all the games taking place on Sunday. At Chelsea versus Leicester City one is a 2 p.m. kickoff, but to kick off the weekend we have Bristol City versus Manchester United at 12:30 for Bristol City, looking to pick up some points now. Obviously disappointing lost to Aston Villa a couple of weeks ago, managing to fight back to get a draw against Everton last week. A midweek defeat to Tottenham Hotspur in the Conti Cup is not something they want to be happening. For Manchester United, they obviously lost the Manchester Derby last weekend, so they'll be wanting to bounce back league-wise, but they managed to pick up a winning Conti Cup action in midweek, so you'd have Mark Skinner's side as the strong favourites, but dropping points in this one is a big no-no for them if they are definitely wanting to keep up the fight for the Champions League spots with Arsenal and Manchester City. Speaking of Arsenal, they play at home to West Ham United at 2 p.m. Arsenal obviously coming in the back of this now on a good reign of form, getting players fully fit and everyone back together. It is starting to look good for Jonas Eidevall's side. West Ham though, they are in dire need of some points here. Rian Skinner's side have gone a long time since picking up a win. 4 points on the season, sitting second from bottom. It is a bit worrying for them. Another 2 o'clock game we have is Liverpool versus Brighton and Hove Albion. Liverpool back-to-back defeats, obviously Conti Cup in midweek, and then getting that 5-1 drubbing by Chelsea last week is not something they want. However, Brighton and Hove Albion, they managed to pick up a win against West Ham in the Conti Cup, but they also lost last time out in the league to Arsenal. So it's been a bit of a hit and miss weekend for season so far for Melissa Phillips' side, but this is a game they can definitely win quite convincingly, so it wouldn't be surprising if they did. Penultimately at 4:30 we have Aston Villa versus Everton. Aston Villa coming into this in some good run of form now in their last couple of games, picking up some wins, especially last week, last minute winner against West Ham United, and then a comfortable victory in midweek is everything that Carla Ward's side now needed to get over their little hump to start the season. Everton on the other hand, looking for points everywhere possible, and they aren't getting it anywhere soon, so it's going to be a big worry for Brian Sorensen's side. If they can't pick up a victory here, they could potentially be seeing themselves getting closer to the foot of the table this weekend. And to finally finish off with this weekend in the WSL, we have Manchester City versus Tottenham Hotspur at 7:15. That rounds up this weekend's games in the WSL and the final set of games before the international break. For Manchester City, obviously they came back beating Manchester United 3-1 in the Manchester Derby last week before losing on penalties in midweek in the Conti Cup, where Spurs, they managed to draw with Leicester City last week and pick up a win in midweek in the Conti Cup. So bit of a weird week for Spurs, but they'll be hoping that they can finish the weekend on a high. It's going to be a very interesting game and one I cannot wait to watch. Right, that's it for this week. If you want to check out anything else, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the latest news and stories. Head over to our Twitter and Instagram where we have daily posts of any breaking news and everything. And follow our podcast. Just search Women's Football Talk Podcast on any podcast site to listen to a full breakdown of last weekend's results and a preview of everything else that happens in the world of women's football. In the meantime, we'll see you soon.